Williamsville Sports Weekly is brought to you by your local country financial representative, Ed Legner. Please contact Ed for all your insurance and financial planning needs. His office is located at 318 Crossing Drive in Sherman, and he can be reached at 217-496-2341. But for now, enjoy the show. Welcome to Williamsville Sports Weekly, an in-depth look at both BB and Bullet athletics, hosted by our athletic director Adam Euchre and former Lady Bullets basketball coach John Hampton.
Welcome to episode 83 of Williamsville Sports Weekly, brought to you by Ed Legner, Country Insurance Financial Representative out of Sherman, Illinois. You can visit Ed for all your insurance and financial needs. It's hard to believe as we're recording the beginning of this podcast here on Thursday night, October 13th, that we're in the postseason for fall sports at the high school level. You got two golfers, Margot on the girls' side and then Eli Rivas on the boys' side, who are getting ready to embark on their state match starting tomorrow. We got our boys soccer team going for their fifth straight regional championship on Saturday against Blue Ridge, and volleyball entering the last week of the regular season next week, as well as football too. So hard, and cross country, they start postseason play next week as well. And really the last part of the junior high season comes to a close this weekend for the fall as well, with our junior high cross country team competing at state. Gone by extremely fast, and as you get older, things always tend to go a little bit faster. But the one thing, going off a little bit off sports here, that's been really exciting for me personally this fall has been the release of quite a few albums by some bands that I listen to. Really excited tomorrow, Kings of Leon releasing their next album, Walls. Last week, Jamestown Revival, a new band that I've gotten into over the summer, released their album, Education of a Wandering Man, which is excellent. Blackberry Smoke is coming out with a new album in October. Whiskey Myers came out with one in August. One of the best heavy metal bands of all time, Metallica, coming out with a new album here towards the end of the fall. And then on your classic rock side, Bon Jovi releasing one. So a lot of great music. And one of the things I want to challenge you to do this week, go listen to a new band. You know, we kind of get stuck in a rut and sometimes listen to the same music that we've always listened to, but there's a lot of great new artists out there that have a lot of exciting things going on, and sometimes music is a way to get through a lot of things in life. And I know personally with what we've had to deal with this school year with the passing of Mr. Root, a lot of music and a lot of albums that I haven't listened to in a long time have been able to help me get through that, and some new stuff as well. So go out, listen to someone new, whether it's on Google, Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, or even going down to your local record store, which is always fun. And check out someone new this week. You'll really be surprised at all the great artists out there. Getting back to the Williamsville sports scene at hand, really excited about the interviews that we have coming to you this week. Starting off in the next segment, hometown boy Mitch Davidson, second year at the helm of the boys soccer team, as he's really been a part, both as an assistant coach and now as the head coach for the last 2 years, of building the Bullets into a perennial soccer power year in and year out. As I said, going for their fifth straight regional title this Saturday against Blue Ridge at home, 11 o'clock start on the pitch. Hopefully we get a big crowd out there. And one of the things that Coach Carlson, who we talked to last week, has always said, with volleyball, the regional championship, it's become an expectation for her program, not the ultimate end-of-season goal. And I think boys soccer is getting to that point too. I bring this up in the interview, but one thing that I talked with the seniors about on senior night is the thing that their class has been able to do, because since they've been part of the last 4 out of the last 5 regionals, is Williamsville really used to be known as a football-only school in the fall. And this class of seniors has really put the school on the map as a soccer school as well. And it's pretty amazing that a school our size of a little less than 500 kids can sustain so many programs at a high level and so much participation. We have over 90 kids out for football. Coach Davidson has almost 30 out for boys soccer. Cross country's busting at the seams. We got almost 15 golfers with Coach Trine on the boys' side. And then you look at volleyball too with Coach Carlson and the amount of girls she has. And then the same on the cross country team with Coach Casson and then Coach Croy with the golf team, and then cheerleading as well. So all of our programs, they feed off of each other. They want to do as well as every other program. And, Coach Davidson even talks about, how the baseball program has been an inspiration with Coach Buttry and, how he reloads instead of rebuilds every year. And soccer's getting to that point too. And I don't want to give the whole interview away, but a lot of great talking points that Coach Davidson brings up and how it's been really important to him to be able to come back and coach at his alma mater. And the one thing that was really impressive with this interview is the amount of impact that Mr. Root had on him and how now it's carried over to this next generation of kids, and how the things that Coach Davidson learned from Mr. Root as a junior high student and a junior high basketball player have really carried him on in his personal and professional life, and he's passing that on to the boys on the soccer team as well. So a lot of great things in this interview, and then we're joined by senior goalkeeper Joe Roscetti in the player spotlight segment, and it's really cool to hear Joe's journey to go from a football player to a soccer player, and then we all know what he's been able to do on the baseball field as well, and he talks to us about his journey to committing to the university, or Quincy University, to play baseball next year. And we hear some stories about his brother, who's currently in the Brewers organization and finishing up his degree at the University of Iowa. So 2 great interviews this week to get you ready for that regional final game on Saturday here at WHS, like I said, 11 o'clock. Before we get to that interview, remember, as always, you can follow us on Twitter at WCSD15 Sports for all your news and score updates on both BB and Bullet athletics throughout the 2016-2017 school year. Remember, Facebook as well, facebook.com/WHS Bullets to connect with us. Like us on Facebook for that, so you can follow what's going on not only with athletics within the high school, but all the exciting things up at WHS. As always, you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Williamsville Sports Weekly, rate, review, so more people can know about this, as we're definitely expanding into a lot more in-depth content with not only things here at Williamsville, but across Central Illinois with some former alums and some happenings within the Saginaw Conference as well. If you don't have iTunes and want the podcast to come to your podcast feed every week, you can access it at WCSD15.org and just go to the athletics homepage. And on the left-hand side, you can get this episode as well as all the past episodes as well. Remember, on the athletics homepage as well, you can access all the updated scores for both our junior high and high school teams throughout the school year, so you can stay up to date with everything that's happening in the world of both BB and Bullet athletics. As I said, when we return, we'll be joined by second-year head coach and alum of Williamsville High School, Mitch Davidson.
Next time you're in the market for insurance or financial planning, stop by and see Country Financial Representative Ed Legner at 318 Crossing Drive in Sherman, or give him a call at 217-496-2341. And now, back to the show.
Something I couldn't replace. I was running away from the only
Welcome back to Williamsville Sports Weekly, presented by Ed Legner, Country Insurance Financial Representative out of Sherman, Illinois. You can visit Ed for all your insurance and financial needs. Sitting with us right now, second-year head coach for the Bullet Soccer team, Mitch Davidson. Coach, second year at the helm. Obviously, I've been with the program for a number of years before. What do you see as the biggest difference for you as a coach going from, I guess, your rookie season to now your sophomore season at the helm? And what are some things that you learned in that first season that you feel you're doing a better job of now in your second year?
Well, first, thanks for having me. I enjoy, obviously, being the head coach for the boys soccer team. I think probably the biggest difference, or two biggest differences from this year to last year, is first the leadership. The senior class last year, they were a great class, but we relied more on one or two individuals to kind of lead us to the charge. This year, we have 9 seniors, and any one of them could really step up and be a captain for our team. So the leadership has been outstanding. There's a lot the seniors have sacrificed to kind of make our team better. For example, Cole Collins and Jacob Morris, who are offensive players, freshman through junior year, they've kind of stepped up and taken some defensive roles to kind of improve our defensive play throughout the year, and then to allow for some younger guys to step in on the offensive side. So that's been great to have. I think the things that I've learned about our team, or about myself as a coach, to try and improve on is, I think my first year I was very enthusiastic, and sometimes that got maybe misconstrued. And last year I think I had 2 yellow cards just because I was so intense and so vocal. I think this year I've learned to kind of sit back a little bit and obviously I offer coaching advice or any situational stuff that I see out on the field, but you focus more on positive things that are going on with our team rather than focusing on, how the game's going in terms of, the officiating or, anything like that. So I think I've learned just to keep a more even keel, bring enthusiasm, bring excitement, but just keep a even keel playing field, because I think the kids see that and respond to it. So,
and I think that's one thing you learn as you get older in any profession and just in life in general, is the only thing you really can control is yourself.
Right.
And you take sports, and whether it's as a coach or as a fan, no matter how much you say to an official, you're not going to change their mind on stuff.
Right.
And sometimes it just takes, getting older and having additional experience for that. I look back at when I was coaching, and I was the same way. I was very intense my first few years. And then you learn, to kind of calm down and focus on what you can control and focus on what you can improve. And even, obviously you scout it and figure out what you can do strategic-wise to prepare for the other team. But a lot of times, regardless of what the sport is, if you're working on your process and you're getting better, things will take care of themselves. And that's one thing I know that you talked about before we started recording here, was one big thing was the ability to finish this year. And that's a big thing you've seen as a difference between the 15 team and the 16 team. Talk about that and talk about what you did to kind of get that team to be able to finish in key situations.
Well, just kind of going off a few stats from last year, as a team, we scored 45 goals. And I knew last year it was going to be a lot of close games, not because of our talent, but just in terms of finishing the goals, capping them, putting them in the back of the net. It just wasn't there as it is this year. So just as the seniors graduated last year, we knew we had a lot of holes to fill, and one of those holes was our forward position. Obviously Levi, he has 41 goals on the year, the most goals for anyone in our school's history, and that's a tribute to his work ethic, his obviously strong abilities to finish, but also the players around him. Bunger is pretty high on the record board for assists in a year, and so he's been great at getting him involved, getting Levi the ball, and just getting our offense clicking. But moving Levi up to forward has definitely helped create some things, and he's really taken the position well. We have a lot of younger guys, in particular Brendan Bishop, who initially wasn't a starter, but as the year progressed, it seemed however long he was on the field, 5, 10, 15 minutes at a time, he always seemed to find a way to get the ball in the back of the net. So those two guys have been have made a really strong impact on our offense, and just finishing and putting the ball in the back of the net was definitely a point of emphasis this year, and I think the boys understood that and kind of rose to the occasion. So it's been a great year.
Speaking of Bishop, the other night against Mount Pulaski, he has a hat trick in the first 6 minutes. And I'm sure, like you said, from him going not to be a starter to be able to do that in a regional semifinal game, obviously that's exciting for him, but I'm sure that makes you proud as a coach. And then you can talk to the team about that, about what hard work does if you put the time in.
Right. And it's not like Bishop's going out and creating a ton of chances for himself. He just puts himself in a great position. One of his goals, Levi struck the ball well. The goalkeeper made a diving save, and Brendan just crashed on the goal as soon as the shot was taken. And he had an easy put in. So just the extra effort, that's another point of emphasis that we've tried to hammer on this year, and that's really what Brendan does. He puts the extra effort in, and so he's obviously reaping the rewards.
Now, another thing that you had to face last year was having a brand new person in goal who hadn't played soccer in a while, Joe Roscetti, and we'll talk to him in the next segment. But obviously, Joe's an athlete, best known for baseball, and I think a lot of things translate with what he does in the infield, with what he does in the goal for you. But that probably puts you a lot more at ease this year with having 1 year underneath his belt back there on the defensive side.
Absolutely. Joe is a phenomenal athlete. He works hard in practice, does exactly what you ask him, and the kids saw that, and they voted him a captain this year as well as last year. The main difference this year is last year he sort of battled some injuries, and so we had to shuffle some things around, but this year he's been able to stay healthy. I think last year as a team we gave up 35 goals. This year we've only given up like 20, and a lot of it is due to our improved play, and for Joe, his improved play, but also our defense has improved. But Joe is definitely a great goalie. He doesn't have the best fundamentals. His diving's not always. He dives like a baseball player, dives on his stomach. Usually as a goalie you want to dive on your hip, but he positions himself well. He's just very confident back there, and it shows. So we're lucky to have him for sure.
Kind of relating this conversation to our baseball program, one thing that Coach Buttrey has been able to do over the last few years is graduate a large senior class and then be able to replace them, kind of next man up. And it seems like that's kind of been your philosophy. Obviously we're going to have to replace a large number of seniors next year. And one of the things that, we talked about too is how the talent level, especially down at the younger levels, junior high and then grade school, has improved tremendously even since you were playing. Talk to us about that and how that's helped the program build, specifically with a guy like Steve Wakefield who has his hand out at the youth level and helps you out as well.
Well, there's no doubt that a strong youth program in any sport is going to help them as they get to high school. And so as you're seeing, I think as the years have progressed, more and more competitive players. When I was in high school, I think we had one competitive player every grade level, maybe, if we were lucky. This year, we have, I don't even know how many, probably 14 or 15 kids probably play some sort of full year-round competitive or during the spring. Just keeping your touches on the ball and getting a different coach in there who has maybe different strategies or different points of emphasis definitely helps translate into quality soccer players. And a lot of our success is due not only to the competitive side but also Coach Wakefield. Coach Wakefield's been here 14 of the last 15 years. He was my one of the assistant coach when I was a player, and so his consistency that he brings, because he's now taken charge of the Sherman area for the Y, getting those kids registered and just being an active member in the soccer community has really helped our program. And then he also does, the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. That's kind of a critical point for kids as they start to keep their enjoyment of soccer up, and so he gets those kids involved, keeps them involved during that time, because we don't have junior high soccer. So just keeping those kids active and keep them excited about soccer definitely helps.
You talk about growing up here and how much things have changed, and I'm sure it was this way when you were in high school too. But in the fall, we've obviously always been known as a football school, and I said this to the boys on senior night, that this class, with being a part of now 4 out of the last 5 regional finals, as you guys are now in your 5th straight regional final, we're also known as a soccer school too. And Coach Carlson has always said on the volleyball side that in the postseason, a regional is not a goal, it's an expectation now, and it feels like we've gotten to that point. How does that make you feel with having graduated from here and seeing the program just explode within the last 5 years in terms of the success, and now being known not only as a football school on the boys' side in the fall, but a soccer school as well?
I mean, no doubt it's exciting to see just the progression of how this program has kind of taken off, and a lot of it has to do with just the boys' mentality. No school comes in and says, I'm going to lose first round of regionals. I mean, no kid's going to say that. Every school has goals. I think the difference between, being successful and why the boys, especially the senior class, has been so successful is because they respect the process. They come in ready to go at practice. We set a standard, got to be there at 3:30, ready to go. And first couple of days, some of them don't meet that standard. Well, after running a little bit, they understand, okay, this is an expectation. So if you set the expectation high, something as simple as being there at 3:30, the boys rise to the occasion. So if the expectation is to have a strong postseason run, well, then guess what? We're going to come in every day at practice, and we're going to grind it out. So that's just having a higher expectation on the boys sets for even higher success. So I think that's been kind of the difference between maybe when I was in high school versus now. It was a football school. The expectation was high expectations for the football team, and now we're across the board: soccer, volleyball, golf. Now is girls golf. They got one going to state,
and then boys has one too, and they both have a shot at placing pretty.
Well, there you go. So
Eli Rivas was the medalist, and then Margot, she got second with a 74. So
just the expectation all around the board has been phenomenal. So it's going to lead us to have continued success across the board. So
obviously, with growing up here, you had our late superintendent, Mr. Rudd, as a teacher when you were in junior high. He was the basketball coach for you, and some people may have saw a few quotes in the paper about the letter he wrote you, and obviously that had a large impact on you. And I just want you to kind of share a little bit, how that letter came about, and what was in that letter, and what it kind of meant to you, and kind of has been a driving force in your life since you've received that, as you've gone through and reflected back on that.
Well, just kind of start from the beginning. I enjoyed playing basketball. I tried out my 6th grade year, made it. I think I played for the B team. I was never a strong basketball player by any means, but I just enjoyed playing the sport. But anyway, my 7th grade year, Coach Root was the 8th grade basketball coach. Well, some of the 8th grade years obviously a little bit more competitive, so they don't take as many boys, and I was one of the ones 7th grade year to be cut. He wrote me a letter then, it was within the letter that said I got cut. Hey, we would love for you to be the manager. Initially, I was kind of upset and didn't think that was something I wanted to do. But eventually, after talking with my family, they encouraged me to try and do that, so I did. He let me practice with the team. Coach Farnsworth at the time, he let me practice with the team and kind of improve my skills. And then my 8th grade year, we had Coach Root had just left, I think, to go be the principal at Greenview, maybe, at that time. And so we had a different 8th grade coach. I made the team that year. About a week or so after I made the team, I get this letter in the mail from Coach Root, and it just sharing how happy he was for me, just going through some of the qualities that he saw in me, and then kind of left me with some, words of advice. And looking back, at the time, maybe I didn't appreciate it as much as I do now, but just looking back, he saw things in myself or qualities in myself that I didn't necessarily see in myself at the time. So just that encouragement level that I received at such a young, impressionable age, definitely led me towards the education field. Now, I went through the school district. I've had great teachers who had a strong influence in my life, and so I'm just very fortunate to now be teaching the district that I went to, because when I initially went to be a teacher, my whole goal was to come back, teach at Williamsville, and be the soccer coach, and I've been fortunate enough to achieve most of those goals. So, it's one of those things where I really cherish that letter he had now. Obviously after his passing, that was, opened up a lot of the emotions that letter brought to me, and so it's just a great kind of memento I have of Mr. Root, just another act of his many kindnesses that he shared not only to me but to others. It was kind of cool, going through Facebook and seeing a lot of my friends from high school. They had similar letters that he had written to them while he was at Greenview, either being the principal at Athens, or while he was even superintendent here. But they had been long graduated, and just his kindness is something that definitely the Williamsville community is going to miss for sure. So that it's just a great memento to have now that he's gone. So,
well, and obviously, in watching you coach the last few years, and then even listening to what you said here today, you can see that impact that has had on you, and that you've been able to pass on to the boys, not only this season but in past seasons as well. Coming back, full circle, obviously, game on Saturday, as we talked about, 5th straight regional title opportunities facing the Knights of Blue Ridge. Having watched them last night, they beat a team that we'd already beat this year 2-0 in Warrensburg. They beat them 5-0. What are some things that you guys are going to have to do in order to capture that 5th straight regional and then go into the St. Thomas More sectional next week?
Obviously, the simple answer is put more goals in the net than them, but we're two very different teams. We like to possess the ball and let plays develop to scoring chances. They like to move very quickly and move the ball up the field as quickly as they can and try and create, pressure, maybe going one-on-one with one of our defenders. So just eliminating a lot of the direct play, and then maybe possessing the ball. The longer you possess the ball, obviously, the longer they don't have it. So just possessing the ball and spreading them out defensively. Quinn and Elliot Bloomberg, they play wing. So getting them involved, making sure that they're staying wide, using the entire width of our field, because we have the maximum size of a field that you can have. So using every blade of grass out there is going to be key. Just keeping them spaced out and then attacking that way will help us as we look for another win. So
obviously a home field advantage that a lot of schools don't have the luxury of having, because when people come here, it seems like they're a lot more winded than they normally are in the games that they play at different locations. Obviously, we hope for a huge crowd on Saturday. Gates will open up at 10 o'clock, game time at 11, $5 charge for the IHSA Regional that you'll be able to pay at the gate. But besides that stuff and everything we've talked about, anything else you'd like to add or tell listeners out there, Coach, before we let you go?
Just thanks. I want to thank the parents, the community, the administration, everyone for their support throughout the year. Obviously, we look to make a strong postseason run with this senior class, and just really, it's been one of those great years. Not only because we've been successful, but just because the boys have been it's been such an honor to be around them because they're such good kids. All positive, and just watching them grow and develop as they've gone through their high school soccer career has been just a pleasure to watch. So, Mr. Euchre, thank you for letting me be here, and we look forward to the crowd on Saturday. Thank you.
Coach, once again, thank you so much for coming on. When we return, we'll be joined by senior goalie for the Bullets, Joe Roscetti.
If you can't make it out to the game, you don't have to worry about missing a moment of the action by following all BB and Bullet athletic happenings on Twitter at WCUSD15Sports. And now back to the show.
Welcome back to Williamsville Sports Weekly, presented by Ed Legner, Country Financial Insurance representative out of Sherman, Illinois. You can visit Ed for all your insurance and financial needs. Sitting with us right now, senior goalie for the Bullets soccer team and second baseman for the Bullets baseball team, Joe Roscetti. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
The first thing that I want to kind of talk about here is I'm just glad that you're on here. When I see you're kind of a quiet kid, just do your thing, not a lot of spotlight. And it reminds me a lot of John Beal. And I know you're pretty close with John with having played baseball with him. And I could never get him on here. He didn't want to do interviews at all. And so in my eyes, you already have a leg up on him because you've come here on the podcast and you're going to put him to shame, because if we were talking to him right now, the interview would already be over.
Probably.
Now, I'm going to focus a little bit on baseball first, and then we'll transition to soccer. With soccer going on right now, you guys are in your fifth straight regional championship game coming up this Saturday, playing the winner of Warrensburg, Latham, and Blue Ridge. And when this airs, we'll know who that winner is with us recording this here on Wednesday. The game takes place later this afternoon at 4:30. But obviously, very athletic family that you come from. Your sister, three-sport athlete over at SHG. She went on to Quincy University to play baseball. Obviously, we know about your brother, who's currently in the Brewers minor league system, obviously rehabbing an injury right now that he had earlier this season. What does that, or I guess, has there always been kind of an expectation for you to be good at athletics as well, having followed in your brothers and sisters' footsteps?
Yeah, I definitely think there was always a high expectation for me to be good at everything I did. And with everyone else expecting me to play the same sports my brothers did. Although my parents were always lenient, they said, do whatever you want to do. We're not going to pressure you into anything. So I think that also helped with me deciding that just playing soccer and baseball was my thing and not being pressured by anyone else to play basketball or football. I think that helped me out a lot.
Now let's talk about football a little bit. You obviously started playing football here your freshman year. And I obviously know that story with talking with your dad and watching you grow up here over the last 4 years. But tell the audience, why you are not playing football anymore, because obviously your brother left a huge impact on the football program here.
So basically, freshman year, it was just a practice. Never played a game. I was a wide receiver. I was running my route, turned wrong, tore my ACL. So I was out my whole freshman year sports. I knew then that I wanted baseball to be my career, and that's what I was going to do in college. So I made the choice not to play basketball or football sophomore year, just focus on baseball. And then I just kind of went from there, deciding that I needed something else to do in the off season of baseball. So I picked up soccer and just went with that.
And we'll talk, like I said, we'll talk about soccer a little bit more in a second, but going back to that with football, was that, getting hurt, not having played a game, you obviously watched your brother play on Paul Jenkins Field. How hard was that for you not to even be able to play? Like, obviously, it's worked out so far. It's worked out, as we look back. But at that moment in time, how devastated were you so early on in your career?
Yeah, it was really disappointing just knowing, like, every time someone made a play, it was like, that could be me. I could have done that. I could have been in that spot. So just kind of disappointed.
And obviously, an ACL injury, that's really hard to come back from. And you really worked your tail off. And I know talking with your dad, you did a lot with rehab, to get ready to be able to come back then into that sophomore year of baseball. Kind of take us through that rehab process and what you had to do to get ready so you were tip-top shape, because obviously you were a huge part of that team that made that run to state in 2015.
Many months of therapy. It got to a point where it was just boring. I didn't want to do it anymore, but I knew that if I didn't do it, I wouldn't be the person that I was. So all that rehabbing and practicing baseball just throughout the time before baseball season really helped me prepare.
And obviously the one thing with a knee injury in baseball versus maybe another sport, you can still work on some of that throwing motion stuff. Talk to us about how, some of those drills that you did when you weren't able to use your leg to still keep you, ready to go.
Yeah, I worked on a lot of, obviously, upper body strength because I couldn't do too much lower and stuff. So it was mainly just working my arm strength up, doing what I could do, what my instructor for physical therapy said I could do hitting-wise, which wasn't very much. But I was focusing on my catching and throwing skills, my hand-eye coordination, and then eventually, once I healed up and got better, I was focusing on my hitting and everything else.
Now, you talked about you took a year off from everything to just focus on baseball then your sophomore year, really ready to go, and we obviously know the great run that you guys made in 2015. Then coming into your junior year, you decide, hey, I'm going to give soccer a try. Where did that come from? Had you played soccer previously, or was this just kind of a shot in the dark that, hey, I want to try this and we'll see what happens?
Yeah, I played soccer my whole life all the way up till freshman year. I knew I always wanted to play it. Like, if I could have played football and soccer, I would have done it. But we can't do that here. And so me wanting to play soccer was just me picking up a hobby that I love doing and enjoyed playing.
Now, obviously, your footwork, hand-eye coordination, there's a lot of similarities between what you do on the goal and what you do in the infield. Talk about how playing soccer made you a better baseball player your junior year, and then how playing baseball has made you a better soccer player, specifically a goalie, coming into your senior year.
Going into playing soccer, I knew I wanted to be a goalie. I knew it had the same reflexes and everything as being an infielder in baseball. So I think playing both those sports definitely helped me develop different qualities, and which helped me lead to be the player I am.
Now, talking with a former goalie here, Kate Busher, who was the goalie for the girls for a number of years before she graduated, and what she said when I interviewed her for the podcast was sometimes she gets bored back there. And we'll go to, last night we ended up winning 9-1. What do you do to keep yourself mentally sharp? Because a lot of times the ball's on the other half of the field. I mean, how do you make sure you're not just, caught not paying attention and then one slips by you?
It's kind of hard, but I, when you're just standing back there, you tighten up a little bit. So I just stretch and just try and stay as focused as I possibly can.
Do you ever do mental games or sing a song in your head or anything to make sure you're not bored?
Yeah, I might have a song stuck in my head from previous, but try to keep it clear.
Now, we talked about at the top of the interview, you guys are in your 5th straight regional title game. Great shot to make a deep run in the postseason. What do you think it's going to take to not only win this regional, but then hopefully get out of sectionals and maybe even make a run up to East Side and East Peoria to a 1A state finals, very similar to what the girls did this past spring?
Just playing together. Our team has great chemistry. They've all played soccer with each other for many years before this, all when they were little kids. So I think our chemistry and us being to use that as an advantage over other teams is going to help us make that deep postseason run.
Switching back to the family side, we all know you've committed to Quincy University, and you already had a connection there. Your sister went there on a softball scholarship and played there after she graduated from SHG. Was there any other reason that Quincy was attractive to you besides, being familiar with it? Because obviously you went through the recruiting process, and there were more schools than just Quincy that wanted to be able to bring you on for their program and utilize a skill set that you have.
The reason I went to Quincy was because they were good. They were close to winning a national championship. They're regional. I wanted to go somewhere where it wouldn't be a rebuilding process. They'd be good, and I'd be able to win like we do here at Williamsville. I'm not used to losing, so why would I go to a school that doesn't win?
Now, obviously, a lot of people know who your brother is from how well he did at the University of Iowa, playing in a Big Ten program. Do you think that helped with your recruiting process by already having the Roscetti name out there?
I think people expect it to help, but it really doesn't. College coaches want to win. They don't care who your previous relatives were or whatever. If you're good, they're going to recruit you, and that's just how it is.
Now, is there a chance that you're going to do something besides play infield? We'll talk a little bit in a second what your role may include this coming spring for your senior year at Williamsville, but is that the main thing they've recruited for you is to play infield for Quincy next year?
What they've told me and what I understood is they want me to play anywhere on the field. They said that I am capable of it. I have great athleticism and I can play anywhere. So that's what they told me. And
as long as you play, that's all you care about,
yeah.
Right? Now, obviously, the other reason you pick a school is for academic reasons. What have you kind of decided what you're going to focus on next year for a major, or is that kind of still up in the air at this point?
Right now, it's still up in the air. I'm leaning more towards a technology field, but I'm still not positive on that.
So nothing like law enforcement, like what your dad did for a long time?
Not currently.
Now, we talked about you obviously have played second base for the Bullets ever since your sophomore year, something you're very familiar with. But your role may change this year. We lost a huge arm in John Beal, and we have some coming back, but there's still a gap there. What is Coach Buttery kind of looking at you for besides playing infield this year, and how do you think that's going to change the dynamic and the role of the team?
Definitely going to be helping on pitching this year. We have Cody Womack returning, which was probably, if not our ace last year. Other than that, it's me, Talon, and probably some younger kids are going to have to step up and fill some spots.
And that's the one thing that we've always done, since I've been here, and even when your brother was playing, Coach Furlow for a long time before Coach Buttery. It always seems like kids step up when we have a huge loss in terms of number of seniors that graduate. Obviously, losing John Beal and Vince and the other seniors from last year. But why do you think that is, where it's just the next person up, and that we're so ready when there's other teams, they lose a huge core and they never recover from it?
I think the reason we have such a good coaching staff, the JV coach, Coach Claudney, really prepares the kids all the way from junior high up until they start playing varsity ball. So I think they're always prepared to play for us. And when we can, we always try and give the JV players in varsity games, put them in situations they're not used to being in, and I think that just helps them.
And that's a big thing that we look at, is making sure that those younger kids have opportunities with having a large number of games. Obviously, you never got that with having been right up on varsity since you've been able to play, obviously being out your freshman year, but that's a huge reason why. Now, one thing that I want to add before we wrap this up, we talked about your brother being in the minor league system for the Brewers. How cool was it to be able to see him play at such a high level within the Big Ten, and then it now being part of a major league organization?
It's awesome. Other than the fact that I don't really get to see him that much, because where he's playing at now, he's in Arizona, and with school and everything, I can't really make the trip down there. But hopefully eventually during spring training, I'll be able to make a trip somewhere, wherever he's playing, and maybe that'd be a lot of fun.
Now, with spring training with him, because, he'll probably be slotted in A-ball, maybe double A-ball. Will he still work out with, the guys on the big league roster in spring training, or will they kind of be segregated in a different part of camp?
I haven't talked to him too much about it. Him being injured and stuff, we haven't really thought about it. We just know he's going to be there, so I really don't know the answer to that.
Now, when he got drafted, did you guys get to go up to Miller Park or anything like that, or get a behind-the-scenes look, or with him still being kind of in the lower part of the organization, that's something you haven't been able to experience yet?
I have not. When he got drafted, I was at a baseball tournament, so he was there with me, and he got the call, so that's all that really happened.
Well, Joe, once again, thank you so much for coming on today. Obviously, we're excited to see the deep postseason run that soccer's projected to have, and obviously in the spring with baseball as well. But before we let you go, is there anything else that you'd like to add or tell the listeners out there?
Go Bullets.
Thank you, Joe. When we return, we'll take a look at the week ahead for both the BBs and the Bullets.
Next time you're in the market for insurance or financial planning, stop by and see Country Financial Representative Ed Legner at 318 Crossing Drive in Sherman, or give him a call at 217-496-2341. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to Williamsville Sports Weekly. Little Kings of Leon coming out of the break there in honor of their new album dropping tomorrow. Hope everyone goes out and gets that, as I know KOL is going to put out another great set of music, as they always have. And the thing that's really cool about them is how they evolve over the course from one album to the next, much like a good team. They don't just continue to do the same thing over and over again. They evolve and get better. And it kind of goes back to both sets of interviews that we had, and how both Coach Davidson and Joe Roscetti evolved despite the setbacks they had. And, it's really cool to hear how humble they are, even though the success that they both had. And they talk about the process and how focusing on the process and focusing on yourself, things tend to work out. And that's a big thing to remember. We a lot of times focus on things that are beyond our control, and I know I'm guilty of that quite a bit, and worrying about things that we can't change. And both of them learn that when you focus on things you can change, you get better and you get results. And obviously both, Coach Davidson as the head coach and Joe in the goal for soccer and in the infield in baseball has gotten results as well. And we wish them the best of luck tomorrow, or not tomorrow, on Saturday, as they take on the Knights of Blue Ridge for their chance of the fifth consecutive regional title. And moving on to hopefully the St. Thomas More sectional on Tuesday over in Champaign. Before we get to that, though, a lot of big things happening this weekend, as we talked about. Eli Rivas on the boys' side will be heading up to Prairie Vista Golf Course in Bloomington tomorrow and Saturday for the IHSA State Series. And then Margot will be going up to Red Tail Run over in Decatur Friday and Saturday for the girls' State Series. They're both teeing off about 10:30 tomorrow, and we'll let you know when they're teeing off on Saturday based on how well they do in their rounds tomorrow. I think they both have a great shot at placing. Eli obviously coming off a sectional title win as he medaled last week, and then Margot, as she captured the regional title and then shot a 74, missed the medalist position by 3 strokes at the sectional up in Lincoln. So I think both of them have a great shot at placing this weekend. Football varsity's at Porter tomorrow night. If you can't make it to the game, you can catch that on WHS Bullets TV NFHS.com on the NFHS network. Great way to not only catch that game, but all the games within the Sagamo with volleyball and boys and girls basketball as well. So hopefully you either make it over there or catch that game live on the NFHS network. Moving on to Saturday, obviously, we talked about golf, and then the boys soccer regional as well. JV volleyball is traveling over to Pleasant Plains, and then cross country is up at Peoria Heights for their final regular season matchup, meet of the year, as they run the state course up at Detweiler Park before they move into sectionals next weekend. So a lot of great things happening, and then moving into next week, home game for the Lady Bullets volleyball team as they host SHG on Monday, and JV football for Porta Monday as well. Volleyball starting at 5 o'clock and JV football starting at 6. And then the girls are in action again on Tuesday as they travel over to New Berlin. And Coach Carlson goes for her 300th victory as a head coach. So we wish her the best of luck in those games as well. Thursday will be senior night for volleyball as they host Illini Central in their regular season finale before they start postseason. The following week will honor not only the volleyball team, but the boys and girls cross country team, boys and girls golf seniors as well before the start of the varsity game. Freshmen wrap up their regular season on Thursday as well as they travel over to Porta for a 6 o'clock game. And then next Friday, the boys will host Athens in the final regular season game at Paul Jenkins Field for senior night, as well honor the seniors for football, cheerleading, and band before the start of that game, which that game will start about 7 o'clock, and we'll do senior night roughly between 6 and 6:15. On the junior high side, girls basketball is in full swing. 6th grade tournament is this weekend at the junior high, and then the state meet for cross country is at Maxwell Park in Normal starting at 11 a.m. And the girls have a full slate next week. Monday, 5:30 on the 17th, they travel over to Pleasant Plains. Now on the 18th, they're at home for a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade game against Mount Pulaski, 5 o'clock start. Thursday, the 7th and 8th grade team travels over to Di Vernon before the county tournament starts next weekend over at Pleasant Plains. So a lot of good things happening. And like I said with my challenge, you check out a new band this week, find some new music. Like I said, a lot of great new artists out there. Maybe you'll get the brand new Kings Leon album that comes out tomorrow. Until next week, remember, it's always better to be a bullet.